Good morning, Minecrafters, and welcome to episode 53 Mindful Giving and the Importance of Generosity. It's just so incredibly important to be generous, and I think that sometimes we just hold back. I think, uh, like anything, fear, not anything, but many things, fear can get in the way. So if it's about, monetary giving, donating, doing anything that involves output of cash, right? You might be, afraid we're not going to have enough. And we're also talking about not just money or donating things or stuff, but also giving of ourselves authentically. And again, fear gets in the way sometimes. And it's like we picture the universe as a pizza or a cake or something, and that if we give up a slice, that's less for us, when in reality it's the exact opposite. The universe, all the abundance out there, it's not like a cake or pizza. It's infinite. So us taking a slice does not mean that there's less for other people, and us giving a slice does not mean that there's less for us either. And there's such a close connection or tie with mindfulness. And I think you all know at this point what a big JKZ fan I am here. Jon Kabat-Zinn, he's one of the great masters of mindfulness. And he talks about these nine, actually originally there were seven attitudes of mindfulness, and he expanded it to include gratitude and generosity. And it's such a huge connection, because sort of the feeling is can almost be surreal when we truly kind of give ourselves over to generosity, and authentically giving of ourselves. And John talks about how powerful it is when we give ourselves over to life, and when we give to others in a way that kind of fills a need, and fills them up, and even contributes to their happiness. And John talks about in one of his books, which is really good, by the way, "Wherever you go, there you are." Mindfulness meditation in everyday life. He's just so amazing. He talks about generosity, as being another quality, much like patience and letting go and non-judging. These are all components of mindfulness, of course. And trust. Generosity provides a solid foundation for our own mindfulness practice, and incorporating this into our lifestyle. And John goes on to say, you might experiment with using the cultivation of generosity as a vehicle for deep self-observation and inquiry, as well as an exercise in giving. He says a good place to start is with yourself. Now, wow, I think a lot of us know how difficult it can be to give to ourselves. And then he goes on to say, see if you can give yourself gifts that may be true blessings, such as self-acceptance, or some time each day with no purpose. Right there's a big sentence. And in this day and age, we're flying around like gerbils on crack, and to actually carve out 15 minutes at the minimum, to have no purpose, to just kind of puttering's an art, right? And my grandfather used to puttering around, creating that white space to just be, in general, and just be in our skin, and just observe this, amazing life around us. So important. And then he talks about, he says, practice feeling deserving enough to accept these gifts without obligation, to simply receive from yourself and from the universe. This is huge. So just to kind of, break this down a little bit, because and it's just a tiny little paragraph. Jon Kabat-Zinn has really offered us a ton of wisdom here, and it's just, very tangible, everyday life kind of wisdom. So when he talks about in exercise and giving, think of exercise, right? We think of running and weightlifting, and, I'm constantly having these chats with my Minecraft students, and picture the brain, kind of lifting weights, and, exercising the brain. And that, this is also true, emotionally and spiritually too. Though we have to kind of have an idea, just like when we go to the gym or when we go out for a run or ski or whatever, have an idea, of where we are, where we are with it, and where are we with our ability to give? How hard is it? How easy is it? Where in between might it be? What situations do we find it easier to give? And in what situations do we find it really difficult to give? And this is good to have sort of this awareness of our own, sort of generosity meter, I guess, our ability to be generous, because it can be very difficult for some people. And certainly certain situations can be difficult as well. And, when he says a good place to start is with yourself, that to me, it's like that old, my cliche, or simple yet profound. That's exactly what that is, because I think many of us, that sounds so easy. Many of us have a really hard time giving to ourselves. And I'm thinking, especially as a parent, and, and specifically a mother, because I do think it's different for women. I think there have been, generations and generations of, messages that it's something wrong or, selfish to the nth degree, for carving out an ounce of time for yourself, never mind actually, giving something to yourself or splurging on yourself with a lunch or a new outfit or something like that. There's definitely, especially when in the smaller kids range, there's a lot, just I remember it, I just felt it, all these messages. And then, you find yourself rationalizing about, how it was okay to break free for 45 minutes and go do something, or splurge and bust out of the budget, save for, a very frivolous massage. And sometimes after all that rationalizing, it was like, oh, was it worth it, kind of thing. And we really it's a good idea to just really try hard to shift out of that, stingy with ourselves mindset, stingy with self-care, stingy with generosity to ourselves, and shift into, again, hashtag self-care is not selfish, and hashtag give to yourself. They're just so important, because when we feed ourselves and keep ourselves filled up, obviously, that kind of rejuvenation, I picture like Old Faithful, guys are just, flowing. Then we obviously have so much, we're overflowing with all this energy, and therefore have way more to give to other people. John says, the gift of self-acceptance, that's huge. I mean, we could do probably an entire podcast series on working towards self-acceptance, because that's deep for a lot of people. A lot of people are carrying around a lot of shame and guilt and things that just sadly keep them away from self-acceptance and self-love. And then he says, setting aside some time each day with no purpose. Hey, that's really hard. I know all too well, when the kids are little, and gosh, I loved being home with my 5 amazing children, now young adults, and still, to wrestle with, taking 15 or 20 minutes out for that hot bath with candles and a glass of wine at night was, a challenge at times. There's no question. Never mind carving out, an overnight with the women friends. That took a lot of planning. We did it about one when all of us had little kids. So it took so much planning. It was once a year before Christmas time. And I look forward to that like breathing oxygen. I'll tell you that right now. And again, even without the going anywhere, the doing anything, it can be every bit as important, like Jon Kabat-Zinn says, to carve out even 15 minutes a day, which will feel really long. I do it. It's not easy for me either, because you have to kind of schedule like a dentist appointment, like we said in previous episodes. If you don't, the time, your valuable life minutes will just kind of, slide down the drain. We have to prioritize ourselves on that level. Again, if we had an achy tooth, we'd figure it out. We'd get to the dentist. So if we prioritized ourselves, even at a small level, again, 10 or 15 minutes a day with no purpose, stop yourself from doing those last 2 dishes in the sink, or throwing one more load of laundry in, or checking that email one last time. really, really do like a self check in that moment. Why am I doing this? And am I living deliberately, or am I living on autopilot? Am I checking my phone because I'm bored and I've become in a habit, which is what it is, of filling up my life minute, filling up my space, filling up space by just sort of unconsciously, or let's say semi-consciously, checking emails 150 times a day and checking my phone notifications just in case somebody texted something. Who cares? Shut it all, just to shut it all the way off. And challenge yourself. Maybe even start small. 5 minutes. No checking the phone, no checking the email, no throwing in laundry, or just if you're physically at work, hide in your office, hide in somebody else's office, hide in the bathroom, hide on the roof, anything to take those 5 minutes, hopefully increasing to maybe 15, and create that white space, just that vacuum and I'm not talking about thoughtless, because we're talking, when we practice mindfulness, as you know by now, it's not about a thought vacuum, especially for those of us who land along the spectrum of attentional difference, we'll just say. That just can let it all in. So we're not judging that. We're talking about just creating white space. If thoughts roll by, we say, okay, there were some thoughts, fine. But to just be wherever you are. And if you're fortunate enough to be on your back deck or in the garden or something, that's all the better. The point is, though, Jon Kabat-Zinn is saying, is to take 15 minutes with no goal, no purpose, no anything, and try that for today, and see how you do. Think about, you probably may more than likely have to check, do the self check through that. Why am I being pulled to this, pulled to that? Why am I resisting just being? Ask yourself this. And then John continues to say, he said, see if you can be in touch with a core within you which is rich beyond reckoning in all important ways. Let that core radiating its energy outwardly through your entire, let me start over with that. Let that core start radiating its energy outwardly through your entire body and beyond. Experiment with giving away this energy. Giving away this energy. Don't hold back. I love that. In little ways at first. Directing it toward yourself and toward others with no thought of gain or return. That is really important, because that's truly, in essence, what authentic giving or mindful giving is. It's not with a goal or looking to get something back. It's just freely giving of yourself. And if you need kind of an exemplar or a visual, see if you can go find a 4 or 5 year old to follow around for a day or even a half hour, because this is how they give. They just give of their entire selves. Obviously, they don't have any money. They don't have anything else to. They just genuinely just jump in the game with you, and they can be great if you need a kind of refresher course on generosity and authentically giving. And then John continues to say, he says, give more than you think you can, trusting that you are richer than you think. I love that, the word trust there. Trusting yourself. Trust that you are richer than you think. Celebrate this richness. Another word I love, celebrate. Celebrate this richness. Give as if you had inexhaustible wealth. Give as if you had inexhaustible wealth. This is called kingly giving. I'm going to go with queenly giving. And I think just like many things, I'm very visual, and I'm all about just envisioning, these good things happening. And I'm actually just coming to my mind right now is a really old Jim Carrey interview when he's with Oprah, my dear friend, as you all know. She just doesn't know, and he's really young. It was before Dumb and Dumber, and he did this visualization, just pretended, or maybe not pretend, believed. Let's say that's better, because it's authentic, believed that all of this was out there in the universe waiting for him. And he was driving up and sitting on over an overlook, I think in Hollywood, and just kind of picturing his acting career, and picturing being successful, and picturing the few connections he'd already made. And then he actually wrote himself a check for millions of dollars, wrote himself just, and put it in his wallet. And he said he carried it around for, I think, 2 or 3 years, and just envisioning, this is already happening. This is already happening. And that's when he got the call for to do Dumb and Dumber, and it was for the amount of whatever the millions you know, were on his check, and just that amazing, just believe it, and not just telling yourself, because you can't really trick the brain. The brain will be like, yeah, right. You don't really believe that. You don't really feel that confident. You got to feel it. Feel like you already have it. Feel like you've got it to give. The way Jon Kabat-Zinn says, give more than you think you can, trusting that you are richer than you think. Just believe it and then celebrate this richness. And obviously, there are all different ways to be wealthy. And obviously, our physical health for ourselves and our family, top of the list, right? So just, if you're struggling with any health issues, picture this. Picture yourself wonderfully healthy in every way, family members healthy in every way. And relationships wise in general, we know, again, this is the box to check, the number one box to check for longevity in life, optimal human functioning, and life satisfaction is our close, positive relationships. Just picture yourself with just wealthy beyond belief with relationships. If it's a partner, that you really would like to have, and then, put all that out there, celebrate all the richness, who you are, everything you have to give to the world. And as far as these, relationships go, which again are the number one for a long, long positive relationships, we release the toxics like helium balloons, positive relationships. And John stresses how important generosity is for this, because generosity is kind of this outward expression of this need for connectedness we all have, and it demonstrates that to other people. So it's kind of this big collective thing, which is just great. It demonstrates this connectedness, this outer expression that we all need and want and have each other, which is very, very, very cool. And we're showing outwardly that we care. Again, this can be a donation or something, but we're talking about spending time actively listening, um, carving out time to be with a child, a young adult child, a partner, where we've got a million other things to do at work. I mean, just a million other things to do. We unplug the drug, the technology, the phones. In fact, I'm thinking of an example that was just yesterday, actually, in my Minecraft class, and I had two of my young adults. I'm going to guess 19-ish. We were sharing. We were on the subject of social media, actually, and then one was brave enough to say, "Oh, I don't want to, kind of throw my mother on under a bus." She said, "But we're eating dinner as a family, and mom jumps on her phone when we're all having dinner. Then dad jumps on his phone, and she's like, she's saying, hey." You're supposed to be spending time with us, and think about the message. And then actually two other students chimed in after that. They were very apprehensive, of course, at first, because they love their mom and love their dad, or their dad and dad, or mom and whomever. And at the same time, they're hurt, really, is what because the behavior itself, the behavior of having the phone on during dinner or during a conversation or during a walk, or even if you're sitting on the couch with another person, that very behavior says, at least in this moment, what I'm doing with this phone is more important than you are. That's what it says. And no matter how we cut it up, it doesn't mean in the big picture. We know we love our kids and young adult kids. In that moment, because as the old cliche says, actions speak louder than words, right? So if we're on our phone ignoring our partner or a young adult child or our little kids, in that moment it says, I am valuing this phone more than you. That's it. Bottom line, true. When it comes down to it, it's about giving, time and energy and thought to someone other than ourselves. And this, again, what we do for others, we do for ourselves, right? So it's a win-win. It's a win-win, even neurologically speaking, because whenever we do anything for someone else, even if it's as small as opening a door or actively listening in a conversation, there's a dopamine fix for us. There's a feel-good fix. Maybe the universe's way of, incentivizing us to do good things for people. I'm not really sure, but there is a dopamine fix in it. And we just know spiritually, Gandhi was big on that. I'm obviously paraphrasing enormously, but, if we're feeling blue, get out and do something for someone else. Anybody else, just, random acts of kindness. I'm a big fan of conscious acts of kindness. A planned act of kindness is a good thing. Just, go out and do anything for anyone. And it's just such an overall win-win situation. Never mind if we think globally, if we could pick one day out of the year or at exactly, whatever time across the world, everybody did one small conscious act of kindness. Just, we could even spin out of orbit. Who knows? It'd be just such a fantastic, fantastic thing. I'm thinking before we even go another inch here, how important it is to realize, the difference between mindful giving and mindless giving, because mindful giving is genuine and authentic. It's just freely given, no goal. And that's gotta be real, because sometimes we think we don't have an agenda, or we think we're not looking for something back, when in reality we often are. And when we do that kind of repeatedly, that's mindless giving. And we can know the difference pretty quickly, because mindful giving energizes us. Mindful giving is life giving to both the giver and the recipient. It's a big plus. It's a big charge. It's a big, it's a feel good. Whereas mindless giving is the opposite. It takes energy. It's depleting. It often causes resentment. And so, way back when we were having our discussions in this Minecraft podcast about codependency, this very topic came up as well, because there are plenty of people. It's very, very common, and for the most part, due to things that happened in childhood all the way up through, develop these habits as adults of people pleasing, and I'm going to say compulsive caregiving. Obviously, caregiving is a good thing when it's becomes part of our, that's when we're kind of seeking it out for our self-worth, and that's no longer healthy, right? And we can know, let's say I'm going to just an example, a mom, let's just say an elementary, middle school mom, flying around in her minivan, running herself into the ground, taking on everybody's kids whose parents are at work, and driving to the everybody everywhere for baseball games and dance or whatever else, and being that person who stays and cleans up every single time after the PTO's function, and being that person, sort of constantly. And then she's like, well, nobody appreciates me, and just starts to, she might not say it, but she's thinking, what am I doing this for, right? And we're not saying don't be a good person. That's not the theme here. The theme is to really look at the motive. Is it a genuine, authentic, wanting to bake brownies for every single PTO meeting? Or is this more about seeking out external approval? Because if that's the case, that's mindless giving, and that feel good thing, that's all ego driven stuff. It's not authentic at all. And it can be very confusing, because we get a lot of praise for it. Oh, isn't she amazing? Isn't she amazing? Isn't she amazing? She might be amazing, but she's also really burnt out, pissed off, and resentful that no one's, that she's walking around feeling used and abused and like a dish rag, who no one's, noticing. And even if they say good things to you, that wears off pretty quickly if underneath, you're not, sort of genuinely feeling that appreciation. And again, the need for appreciation is the ego. So it's just important to really have this awareness, I guess. And again, it's pretty easy to tell. You can tell how you feel. You feel charged and excited, or you feel emotionally drained and depleted. And that's the difference between mindful giving and mindless giving. Now, so back to the authentic giving, right? Jon Kabat-Zinn says it's important to notice what holds us back from this. Again, we said it earlier in the episode that often it's fear, which often, we know holds us back from lots of things. And he says to try this. He says, try to notice the resistance to this impulse to give. And again, we're talking about mindful giving. Notice the resistance to the impulse to give, the worries about the future, the feeling that you may be giving too much, or the thought that it won't be appreciated, which we just talked about, be appreciated enough, or that you will be exhausted from the effort, or that you won't get anything out of it, or that you don't have enough yourself. He says, consider the possibility that none of these are actually true, but that they are just forms of inertia, constriction, and fear-based self-protection. That's good. That's really good. Um, that's really good. We're going to come back to that in a second. These thoughts and feelings are the rough edges of self cherishing, which rub against the world and frequently cause us and others pain and a sense of distance, isolation, and diminishment. Giving sands down such rough edges and helps us become more mindful of our inner wealth. By practicing mindfulness of generosity, by giving and by observing its effects on ourselves and others, we are transforming ourselves. I love that. Purifying ourselves, discovering expanded versions of ourselves. That's excellent. I also definitely join forces with Jon Kabat-Zinn and the use of the word cultivate. I love that word. And also living in northern Vermont, surrounded by these beautiful farms, which very soon are probably, maybe they are already. I don't know. We still have snow on the ground, but the turning over the dirt, and they look so pretty at every stage when those all the symmetry, and it's just gorgeous from the beginning to the end how the farms look once they get going, and the cultivation of the growth and the nourishment and everything cultivating stands for this abundance. It's just such a good word. And so when John talks about the cultivation of generosity, he says this. He says, in the mindful cultivation of generosity, it is not necessary to give everything away or even anything. He says, above all, generosity is an inward giving, a feeling state, a willingness to share your own being with the world. I love that. Again, think of the 4-year-old, just jumping in if they see another child or sibling, you're really upset and crying, and they just all of a sudden stop what they're doing and they just sit and be. Most important is to trust and honor your instincts, but at the same time, to walk to the edge and take some risks as part of your experiment. Perhaps you need to give less or to trust your intuition about exploitation or unhealthy motives or impulses. We talked about that, right? Remember our PTO mom example, and obviously that can be anybody, male, female, or anywhere in between, when we just need to question our motives, and we can be so in that mode of that and that habitual autopilot that for somebody who's kind of a dyed in the wool people pleaser might have to really kind of stay with it and stay committed to checking on themselves along the way with that, because those habits can be strong when they've been reinforced for so long, and absolutely can be undone. Awareness is the first step for sure. And then John says, perhaps you do need to give, but in a different way or to different people. I like that. Perhaps most of all, you need to give to yourself first for a while. Again, it comes back to being the giving tree at the stump level. Those of you who listen to me through numerous episodes, The Giving Tree is my least favorite children's book ever. It could be the only one I don't like, honestly. But again, it should be called Codependency for Kids, in my opinion. But if we're used to being that stump and used to being everybody's everything all the time, think of those words. Has me exhausted just saying that sentence. It may take, again, it might be an uphill lift for a little while, but it can be done. Small little baby steps to give to ourselves, and then be conscious, maybe even journal about it. This was really hard for me today, but I took 15 minutes, or I said no to somebody who I care about because it was too much, and whatever. And then John goes on to say, then you might try giving others a tiny bit more than you think you can, consciously noting and letting go of any ideas of getting anything in return. And here's another thing that I frequently discuss with my Minecrafters with different context or topics of discussion is grit. In fact, there's a good book out there called Grit, and I'm not taking this from there. This is just in general. I think we know basically in the world in general, what we practice we get good at. What we put effort into is what will be successful. Whether it's our relationships, it's our career. Doesn't mean those have to be mutually exclusive when there's balance, but it's what we effort into the garden. It's gonna be prosperous. That sort of thing, and it's not different with investing in a lifestyle of generosity and gratitude. And it takes effort. It takes awareness, and then say, oh, I'm going to start this conscious decision. And it comes also back to deliberate living, because we walk around making decisions all day long, active ones and passive ones. So obviously the passive, more autopilot ones are not always in our best favor. And we can kind of, slide through life with valuable life minutes circling the drain, never to return again. Or we can make active decisions which lead us to, deliberate living, and say, you know what, I'm gonna do something today. I'm gonna give something today of myself. And so Jon Kabat-Zinn says also to just make that choice. It's kind of like the Nike commercial, just do it, right? And he says, initiate giving. Don't wait for someone to ask. See what happens, especially to you. You may find that you gain a greater clarity about yourself and about your relationships, as well as more energy rather than less. Absolutely. Remember the difference. Your mind fully giving when you feel the charge. He said, you may find that rather than exhausting yourself or your resources, you will replenish them. Such is the power of mindful, selfless generosity. At the deepest level, there is no giver, no gift, and no recipient, only the universe rearranging itself. And this is just a lovely place, very natural, I think, transition for all of you to go start your day generously and with gratitude. So we'll end here, and I will say thank you, Mindcrafters across the United States and world, for spending your life minutes in this way. And that's it. This is Kimberly Quinn signing off from Northern Vermont. Have a mindful day.